I'm Carolyn Sophia. That's who I am. And I shouldn't try to want to be someone I'm not, or I never try to be my friends or anyone because I want to be my own person. And I think that that's something that we really have to get across as society as being unique, being your own person. That's what sets you apart.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Nourished Inside Out. Today, I'm here with Carolyn Skowron. She is deeply passionate about mental health and suicide prevention, driven by her own journey of overcoming adversity. In 2021, she published her first book, Unbreakable, which shares her personal experiences with mental health struggles and the resilience that she has developed along the way. As a public speaker, she connects with young people to instill hope and empower them with the message that they too can overcome their challenges and realize their inner strength. Thank you so much for joining us today, Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to go down this route?
Yeah, so I was, born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Pens, hockey fan. And I have the most incredible, loving family. I have a sister, mom, dad. And growing up, I always had all the love and the support in the world, but I always felt very different. And every time I'd go to school, I always felt like I never fit in. I always felt like no one really related to me. I didn't relate to anyone. So it was really hard for me when I was younger to really kind of make friends. And I got bullied from a really young age. So as I got older, I formed this more shy perspective and was not really who I was for a very long time because I was just always so scared of what people were going to think. And then my sophomore year of high school, I found out I had a learning disability, which is called nonverbal learning disability. So you're highly verbal, but you struggle with conceptual skills, math, science, spatial awareness, internalization, all these things that kind of build up to when I was a sophomore in high school, finding out that, but also dealing with depression and anxiety and just dealing with it and finding out I had something that made me even more different. So that was really hard. And then I went to college, thought it was going to be the best 4 years of my life. It was not. Almost tried to take my life my freshman year. Thank God I didn't. I got a phone call at the right moment, and it was my best friend in the entire world. And then my senior year of college, I got in a life-threatening car accident, and I grabbed my seatbelt seconds before the crash, and I was just praying that I'd make it out of there alive. Wow. And that's when I knew it wasn't a coincidence anymore. And after the car accident, I realized I almost faced death not once but twice, once by choice, and once just praying I would be alive.
That's really inspirational. Thank you for sharing your story. I can relate with you in a similar way of when I was growing up, I didn't relate with other people in my class either. I always felt so different, and it can be a lonely feeling because, you want to hang out with the kids at school. You want to sit at the lunch table with the popular kids and all of that. How did you overcome that? And what was your mindset like when you were in school, and how has it shifted?
So, yeah, honestly, when I was in high school, I really didn't have friends. So I would go to the bathroom crying a lot and just like hating my life and wanting to die. Like I was suicidal for a very, very long time. It pains me to say that now, years later, but I was just not in a good place mentally. I didn't really take care of myself. I didn't really care what happened. I was just kind of in this mindset of like, well, if I die, I die. And also in this space of like, I don't fit in here anyway. The popular kids don't like me. I'm not invited to the parties. The guys don't like me. The girls don't want to be friends with me. Like, what is wrong with me? And so it just kind of spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. And I kind of, really didn't handle it in the most positive way. I really had developed a lot of negative coping skills, and I turned to self-harm, and I thought that I deserved this pain. I thought I deserved this horrible feeling, and obviously I didn't. And now, of course, my mindset is that no one deserves to feel that pain. No one deserves to feel that hurt. And, whatever it is you're going through and whatever situation you're going through, whether or not people are treating you right or not, that doesn't give you any sort of reason to want to hurt yourself because you don't deserve it just because other people aren't relating with you or other people aren't understanding you or wanting to be friends with you. And I think that that was just something that took me years of therapy and a lot of healthy coping skills and learning the ways of how to really cope with life, which when I was in high school, let's be honest, high school is just hard 4 years as it is. And I started at public high school, ended in boarding school. It was definitely a huge jump, and it was so difficult because I'm very much a homebody. And so being away from my family and everything was really hard for me. But honestly, yeah, I think the biggest thing is the mindset shift of understanding that things don't always go right now, but that doesn't mean that I want to do anything other than be like, okay, like let's figure out how to solve the problem rather than like, this is what I deserve. Because I never thought in a million years I would ever go down that self-harm route. And the fact that I did, it just like pains my heart to even say that now because I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life, just not by any external happiness except for myself. I finally have found being happy on my own. And I think that that's something everyone deserves to have and to reach that point.
There's a huge message there. I'd love to talk a little bit about it because it's okay to be different. It's okay to not be popular or be liked by everybody in school, because I remember I didn't have a lot of friends either. Kids I went to school with didn't like me. They judged me. I know they talked behind my back. I probably had one friend for a short period of time, and that was fine. I want people to know that it's okay to be different, because if you're different, you're not trying to fit in with everybody, because at the end of the day, we're all uniquely made different. Nobody has the same fingerprint. Even if you have a twin brother or a twin sister, you guys still have differences. And I think there's such a huge message to spread that you shouldn't try to fit in, but instead be who you are and you'll eventually find your people.
Yeah, I always say too, like, I'm like, just be authentically yourself, be who you really are, and the right people will find you. Your people will find you. But it's just the fact that these days everyone wants to be the same, or people want to be classified as popular or whatever. And it's like, listen, I was not popular in high school whatsoever. And I think I turned out okay. Just because you don't fit in with the crowd, or having a learning disability or not, or being different or not, like, it's just like we all, like you said, we all have different fingerprints. We're all different to begin with. So why does everyone always try to fit in this box that, quite frankly, is just going to destroy us more, because people aren't actually going to genuinely be who they are. They're going to be like, oh, let me just fit into this mold. Let me just be like everyone else. I mean, and honestly, I'm not going to lie. I got stuck in that for years. Yeah. I got stuck in that mindset of, when I was in college, oh, you need to party all the time. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. You need to be drinking all the time. Like, it was this horrible mindset of kind of like, I need to be like other people. But later, and it took me like 20 something years to realize this, which hopefully people can understand from this and not have to go 20 years of this, but just understanding that I was uniquely myself. I am Carolyn Sophia. That's who I am. And I shouldn't try to want to be someone I'm not, or I never try to be my friends or anyone, because I want to be my own person. And I think that that's something that we really have to get across as society, as being unique, being your own person. That's what sets you apart. And wouldn't you rather have people who genuinely want to be around you because you're being your whole authentic self than putting on a facade and not having real friends? Because trust me, I've been there, and it's so much better and so much more freeing to have people that just get you for you, and people that understand you authentically for yourself. And that's honestly like my best friends now. I mean, they know how I am with even spatial awareness. Like, there are days where I can't parallel park. I'm like, I get frustrated, and they just know to switch seats, like, and they don't think twice about it. So it's just like having people accept you for who you are. That is what it's about.
Absolutely. It's not trying to fit into a mold, exactly like you said, because I think a lot of times we see so much on social media. This person has
Right.
this person's doing that. So then it makes us feel like fear of missing out. FOMO gives us FOMO, and then we want to be like them. So what advice would you give to somebody who is a teenager or it's just starting college and they're trying to fit a mold, but they know they have more inside them?
The biggest thing is, I get it, high school, college, those are hard years. People think that college is the best 4 years of your life. And honestly, it's a really trying time because you're trying to figure out who you are. But I think the biggest thing is to not be afraid to try things that you want to do. For example, if you're a football player, but you love musicals, why not audition to be the lead of that? I just think that everyone's so afraid of being judged, of being thought of, oh, like this person is like this and this person does this, so they can't have anything else except for this one interest. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, people are allowed to do more than one thing, and people are more than one thing. That's the biggest thing, though, is just understanding that, listen, I get it. I know it's hard. I know you're feeling in your head and your heart, and you're like, this isn't fully me, but I want to fit in with the kids. Dare to be different. Seriously, put yourself out of that mindset and just put yourself out of this box mindset and ask yourself the question. And this is something I didn't do in high school, but seriously, like, ask yourself, what do I like? Who do I want to be? What makes me happy? And ask yourself those honest, genuine questions. And then you'll figure out what it is that really makes you happy. And you'll find people who are like-minded and have the same interests as you as well. It might not be the popular kids, but also understand that that's okay, because popularity is just such a misconstrued thing, because really popular should be the kids who are different. Popular should be the kids who understand that I'm not going to be like everyone else. I'm going to be me. And we should make that the new social norm.
That's really well said. I like how you phrased that. So what did you want to be when you were younger? Middle school, high school? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, when I was younger, I wanted to be a veterinarian because I love animals, and animals are so therapeutic. I love them. I have a cat, Lily. She's sleeping there right now on my couch, but she's like the sweetest thing ever. Having the inclination to always want to help people, it always transpired into something. I mean, it started from veterinary to wanting to help animals. And then, as I got older, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And then you get to college and you're like, well, how am I going to pick my degree? I don't know what I want to do. And quite frankly, it wasn't until my car accident that I really realized what I wanted to do. And had that car accident not have happened, I don't know. I mean, I've always wanted to help people. I've always been extra empathetic and really just trying to help people. But really after the car accident, I was like, this is my second chance at life. I could have gone flying through that windshield. I grabbed my seatbelt seconds before. I still have nightmares about it. Had I not have grabbed my seatbelt right then and there, I probably would have died. And I'm a Christian. And so for me, it was God giving me my second chance at life, because I truly believe that, everyone has a purpose and everyone deserves to find their purpose. The problem is some people just they give up on their purpose, or they don't find their purpose. And actually today it was so heartbreaking. I read this thing on like LinkedIn. It was like one of the things on my feed, and it was about a 10-year-old girl who just committed. And I was like thinking in my heart, and I was like, this is why we're doing what we're doing, because this isn't okay. This isn't fair. Kids, adults, every age is dealing with this. And it's not something that just will go away. It's something that needs to be talked about. And an open conversation to this is so important, because it will help kids understand that my feelings, my emotions are valid and they're normal. And I'm struggling with this right now, but also I can talk to my parents more. Or if my parents don't understand, then maybe I can talk to a counselor or whoever it is. But really opening up and being vulnerable, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, because that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. And I truly think that, like I said, I really think that was God giving me my second chance at life, because I always struggled with mental health issues growing up, and anxiety and depression and self-harm and all these things. And then after the car accident, it was like something shifted, and I was like, wait a second, you need to help people. Like, you need to make a change, because you're so grateful and blessed to be alive. It just all kind of came together.
Thank you for sharing your story on that. Nobody wants to go through challenging or traumatizing times like that, but those are the times that actually help us find our purpose. Because before I was doing this, I was actually a hairstylist, and I loved being a hairstylist, but I was also in a really unhealthy relationship. And that was like my turning point, where I needed to figure out how to get out safely and help other people. Because if I went through something like that, you went through some sort of trauma, that means other people do or have as well. And it's a calling to help other people and give them the education around these areas that we once needed. What was your mindset like before the car accident, and then after? How long did it take for you to switch that mindset?
It's funny because, this was March of 2020, and January of 2020, let's just say I had my last episode. And that was actually when my sister came home that night. She flew home because I needed my sister and she was there. But she said something to me that really struck a chord. And she said, "What life do you really want for yourself? Like, you're not happy. What life do you want for yourself?" And I just remember it was like, I want to be happy like you. I want to figure out a way to be happy. And, after that, it was more like, okay, let's take therapy seriously. So I kind of started going to therapy more, all of that stuff. I was doing okay. I wasn't doing amazing, but I was being more open than I was before. And then the car accident happened. And I swear to God, it just light switched. I was just honestly like, I was so shook up. The PTSD, everything. I just wanted to be with my mom and my dad. And like, my sister had to, come in because this is like quarantine at this point too. So like, it was a very hard time. And I just realized in like my best friends that I have now too, they were there for me too when this happened. And it just like, I really wanted to just be home and just with my people. And it was this whole thing of, I can't believe I'm alive. And I just remember having that mindset for a while after the car accident. Like, how am I alive? I should have died. The fact that I'm alive, like, this is God giving me my second chance at life, because I wouldn't have grabbed my seatbelt. I would have gone flying through the windshield. It was a hit and run. They never found the guy or whoever it was. And it just was definitely a very hard thing because, you're recovering from your injuries. And they thought I broke my ribs, but they were just severely bruised. And I just remember being at home and just being like, so like, just like a new sense of gratitude I didn't even know I had.
It's so beautiful, though, once you take a look at the bigger picture, because now you can take your lessons and help others with it. Did you ever see yourself as a writer before, or were you writing at all before?
It is funny because I had this like one document on my computer and it was just like random things that I would write. Like, I guess it was like throw out, but I wasn't really thinking anything of it. But no, I never considered myself to be a writer. I never considered that to be a goal of mine. Finding healthy coping for me was about what's going to like just help me just let loose and let everything out. And I think with writing, I found that like you can just be so authentically yourself, and it's such a freeing thing and a healing thing. And even though, there is obviously trauma that I've written about, and I will just say this, chapter 4 was by far the hardest chapter I've ever written, because that was about my almost attempt and my best friend saving me. But I also put that chapter in there to show that if you think that this is the answer right now, you're wrong. You have no idea how much you are going to destroy the people that love you the most.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really hope that it gives perspective and that it also helps people understand that I had my angel, but not everyone does. And so I'm hoping that this book can be an angel for someone, or a chapter or something in the book can just really resonate with someone where they're like, wait a second, like my life is worth it and I have to keep going. But it's hard, when you're in that place of getting bullied, when you're in that place of when girls are mean, when you're in that place of thinking it's never going to get better, it's really hard to change and shift your perspective. But that's kind of when it really comes down to having faith that there is something for you. And, I always say that believe in something, whether it's God or not, find something, because when you believe in something, you believe in a purpose, and that gives you a purpose. And so I think that that's just the most important thing, is just find something to have faith in.
That's beautiful. What was your support like? Did you have support from your friends and family?
My mom and dad, they are just saints. They have always been. So the one thing that people always say is like, oh, you had such a loving family. Like, how are you so like, it wasn't like I had a bad childhood. It was at school, sure. But it was like with my family, it was like they always were there. And, the funny thing too is they were always so like adamant about like, be proud that you're different. Be proud that you don't have to be the same like everybody else. And I think that having that too, even though I couldn't see it at the time, subconsciously, it helped me as I was growing up, because it was like, okay, I'm different and that's okay. And I'm not going to be like everybody else, and I never will be like anybody else, but that's okay. I am me. And, I always realized that I had a greater purpose other than before the car accident. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do after graduation because this was my senior year. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, I know I'm meant for something bigger. There's something's a brewing here. And then after the car accident, that's when I realized, there it is.
It's crazy because like sometimes we just have to hit rock bottom for ourselves in order to go up, because if you're already at rock bottom, you can't get worse from there. The only way is up. I remember when I was in my unhealthy relationship, when I was in my really early 20s, that I had similar thoughts that you just described of not wanting to be here, not understanding what your purpose was, not understanding why you're going through those situations. What advice would you give to somebody who is having those kinds of thoughts, who is saying, is there even a purpose for me? What advice would you give?
The biggest thing is find something that you can do by yourself that you're passionate about. For me, it was writing music or singing. I sang in college or whatever it is. But really, everything starts with it internally with yourself and the relationship with yourself. Everyone's always so, oh, I need to go make sure I'm with someone or whatever. But that's not going to heal you. Finding things that make you, and yes, people are going to be like, oh, nothing makes me happy. But find something that like gives you a little bit of joy, whether that's like working out, whether that's art, whether that's music, whatever it is. Just try something for yourself and understand that that can be your healthy coping mechanism to get you through it. And with that, you can also understand that this is my outlet right now. And this is my way that I'm going to get through until whatever this season of life is over, and it will be better in the future. Understanding and really trying to find something that you are passionate about, I think, is really important. The other thing I would say too, though, is get help. Everyone's so afraid to get help until they're in crisis. You can get the tools and the skills before you get to that. And I always say, like, I had to get to rock bottom to know the things that I know now. And I feel like that's just something people should be equipped with, like DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, mindfulness, and gratitude. Like, those are things that really do shift your mindset over time. It's not a one day, oh, I'm better. Like, that's not how it works. It's you're continually trying to grow and trying to be better. And I just think that understanding that it's okay to get help, it's okay to say, you know what, I think I need to talk to someone. I'm not okay, and I recognize that. And because I'm aware that I'm not okay, I got to do something about it and do something that's going to help benefit me, because it's the truth. At the end of the day, I always want people to know that your future self is going to thank you.
Yeah. For somebody who doesn't have like a good support system, or they don't feel like they can trust the people around them, what would you recommend for them to get help? Have you ever tried any suicide hotlines or any of that?
In the United States, there is 988, which is the suicide prevention hotline. I never personally did the texting or calling of it, but they make it so easy now. You literally just can text 988 and you talk to someone, or you can call someone, and they'll talk to you. And, from what I've heard, it has been, a good thing for a lot of people. But no, I never did that. I probably should have at some point, but I just I was in denial for so long that it was just really hard for me to accept that and open up about that and be like, okay, well, yeah, you need help. And telling myself, you need to go. Like, I did intensive outpatient therapy. I was almost inpatient. And they were like, you're either doing this or you're going to be inpatient. I was like, I'm not doing it, because I was terrified. And I did outpatient therapy, and it wasn't like they fixed everything, but it did give me some of the tools that I still use today. And that's something that everyone should just be equipped with from the beginning.
What are some things that have helped you heal after the car accident, whether it was mindfulness, creating new habits, new social circles, traveling? What are some things that have helped you?
Well, definitely physical therapy. I'll start there. 'Cause that was something that I needed to do for a very long time to heal. But I think mentally it was kind of like, checking in with myself regularly, checking in with my family regularly, them being, how are you doing? And me being actually honest. I'm frustrated. I don't want to do this, all this stuff. And then they gave me like the perspective from like, I know this sucks, but I'm just thankful that you still can walk. You still have this. Like, you are blessed to have that. And so anytime they would shift my perspective, okay, you're right, I can't be frustrated or mad about this right now. I have to just like accept it and just get through it. So I would say the support system of having my family, definitely my best friends for sure. I would say like that's probably a big one, because those were people that just like surrounded themselves, that were my people, and really just helped me get through that trying time. So I would say that. But then I also would say, gratitude. That's a big one. And sometimes people don't even know, where do I start? And start with a simple thing. Be like, okay, I have a roof over my head. That's something to be grateful for. And start with small things, or be like, I'm so grateful for my cat. I'm so grateful for my warm bed. Start with little things, because you'll notice over time that you'll shift your perspective a little bit. It takes time and it takes effort. And I think, yeah, mindfulness too is stop and smelling the roses. Seriously, everyone's always so go, 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 but stop and be present for a minute. Stop and be like, wow, that's a beautiful flower, or wow, that's a beautiful sunset, or whatever, because those things will, again, change your perspective over time. I also would say the last thing really is the passion. For me, it was writing. I never knew that writing was my thing, but it was. And it wasn't even just writing the book. I also was writing songs, and, music became a really big thing for me. That was really healing for me. So it's just kind of like about like what like you feel like heals your like inner soul. And it's a constant healing process, like you heal. It's not like you're just healed, you're constantly healing, but it's just one step at a time. And every day that you can heal yourself a little bit more, you'll just feel a little bit better mentally. And then you'll get to the point where you understand that life isn't perfect and there's going to be ups and downs, but you have positive coping skills, and you also understand you have your support network. And also too, I would say therapy too. That was definitely a big one. Talking to my therapist about everything after was very helpful, because it just kind of helped me process everything.
Something that you said was, when people ask you how you are, telling them, but being honest about it. When you were in middle school or high school or even college, when your friends and family would ask you how you're doing, were you able to be vulnerable enough to be honest with them?
No, I went through many Christmases and things that I just felt numb in my soul. And that sounds really sad, but it's true. Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, we're doing great. School's fine. Everything's good. And no, everything was not good. We were in a really bad place. I realize now too, especially because my cousins and I are older now too, but like, just being honest about how everyone's doing at the holidays now is really kind of like special, because people are like, oh, like, I'm struggling with this a little bit, or I'm doing well with this. It's just creating more of the vulnerable conversations, like you kind of said, with the vulnerability. And I think that that's kind of the biggest thing, is learning that it's okay to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a sign of strength and not a weakness. And sharing your feelings is a sign of strength, not a weakness either.
That's so true. Sharing our feelings can be looked down a lot, especially growing up. Growing up, I don't know about you, but for me, it was to shove your feelings under the rug, shove them down, and we don't really need to talk about it. Or it's not going to be a conversation that becomes normal, and it comes off as a weakness when we grow up. But the reality is, being vulnerable, being sensitive, having emotions is actually a vulnerable and a great place to be, because you're not just stuffing them down. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to be more vulnerable and verbal with what they're actually going through, instead of stuffing it down?
Communication. It all starts with communication, opening up opening up to yourself and accepting the fact that I need to do this for myself. I need to be open. I got to be vulnerable. But really kind of communicating that and saying that to people. And here's the thing, if anyone's going to respond negatively to it, those are not your people. When you have your people, people will be very sensitive to it, and they'll be like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, how can I help? Should we get you therapy? What do we need to do that's going to help you? And what's going to make a change for you and help you in the long run? I would definitely say open communication is very important. And I truly do mean, it's not just open with the communication, but it's also the communication with yourself. Because when you're in denial, you're not communicating to yourself that like, I'm fine, like blah, blah, blah. You're just lying to yourself. And it's so freeing to not lie to yourself anymore. And that's kind of where it's like, that's where the communication starts. And then maybe you could like talk to a therapist, or even call the hotline or whatever it is, and just be like, listen, like I'm struggling. Like, I really don't know how to be vulnerable. I really am just trying my best every day, but I feel like people aren't understanding it. And that's really when I say, just find the people who make you comfortable being vulnerable.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, find the people who make you comfortable to be vulnerable. And even if that means reaching out to some kind of hotline, that's an amazing
Yeah.
option as well, whether it's suicide or if you're facing some kind of abuse. Like, for example, my situation was abuse in the relationship. And it's crazy because I literally thought about calling one of those hotlines, but then I was always so scared that what if he checks my phone? What if he finds out? And then I'm screwed. So I was always scared too, but don't be scared. Go to a safe place. Whatever you're facing with, go to a safe place, go to a trusted person, and then move forward that way. You don't have to be scared. We're all here for one another, and you're an amazing example of that as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about your book that you wrote?
Thank you. Yes, Unbreakable is the title of the book, which now you can see why it's named Unbreakable, because I'm unbreakable. That's how the title came to be.
Yeah.
But really, it's about the things that I've went through, my journey, things I've overcome. But I also really wanted to make sure that I put a lot of how common it really was going on. Like, for example, like self-harm is a really big thing with kids, and it's really, really sad. But it shows you the horrifying statistics so that you can be aware and you can be like, okay, if this is what's going on, really, then let's check in with everyone and see how people are doing and really understand the fact that, again, being vulnerable, it all goes back to that, and really have that as the main thing of the book, but accepting yourself for who you are and understanding that it's okay to be different and that you shouldn't want to follow the crowd, because at the end of the day, like, you have your own path for a reason, and comparison and all of that stuff, it goes into all of that. And I really just hope that it helps people understand that, number one, you don't have to change yourself. And number two, just accept yourself and be happy and be confident with who you authentically are. Because so many times these day and age, people are trying to change their face. And here's the thing, if you're doing it for yourself, if it's making you comfortable and it's helping you, great. But so many people do it for society's approval. And it's just not the real reason. Just being yourself at the end of the day, that's really where you're going to shine the most.
Absolutely. Being comfortable in your own skin and loving who you are, essentially. When I worked at the salon, it's so easy to get your nails done, your hair done, your whatever, eyelashes, because you're in that environment. But nobody really talks about what are you telling yourself? How do you actually feel? It was always the outside appearance. So I love how you said that, just really being comfortable with who you are. Before we go ahead and wrap things up, is there any last piece of advice that you'd love to share with the audience that we haven't covered or anything that comes to mind?
I just think that if you're listening to this and you're like, I need help, don't wait right after this, or even pause this and call 988 or text 988, whatever it is that you need to do for yourself. Be honest with yourself, because when you lie to yourself, you just become a ticking time bomb. And I was a perfect example of that. And that's just not what you want. You want to be happy and you want to live a more healthy life. So really being okay with, okay, if I need help, I need help. Understanding that you have resources, and if you are struggling, just understand that it's going to get better. It's going to take time, but you just have to be strong. You have to hold on. You have to keep going, because at the end of the day, you will get through it. You've made it through 100% of your worst days already. So just keep acknowledging that and moving forward, and understanding that if you have a bad day, it's a bad day. It's not a bad life. Nothing's going to break you, because you're unbreakable.
That's so beautiful. So, what does it mean for you to be nourished inside out?
It goes back to self-care. How am I feeling mentally? How am I feeling physically? Oh, inside out for me would mean let's go work out, because that's something that's going to help you. Or let's make sure we're doing face masks or whatever it is, just to cleanse yourself and nourish yourself. So I really think that's kind of my take on it. And also kind of like understanding that everything happens from your heart and it's not the other way around. So really just being a good person, being kind to people, and understanding that, sharing your heart and having a beautiful heart is one of the most important things you can do in life, because how you treat people, it always will come back to you. And, my parents from a very young age told me, to treat others as you want to be treated. My parents always taught me to, turn the other cheek and to be the bigger person, because if someone's doing something to you, get away from it, but don't fight fire with fire because you're just going to make it worse. Take it as all right, this is in the past, we're moving forward kind of thing.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. Can you please tell us where can people support you and find your work and your book?
Yeah, Instagram, it's Carolyn Sophia with 3 A's, I'm pretty sure. And then my website is carolynsophia.com. And from there, you can find the book. You can also find me for speaking engagements, whatever it is. There's a couple things. There's a blog, there's some resources. So some things to really help you if you're struggling or going through a hard time right now.
Thank you so much for being here. I'll have all of that linked in the description below so people can stay in touch with you. Thank you, Caroline.